Hey everyone, welcome to our live stream. My name is Wes and I will be your host. And today I am thrilled to have our special guest, Vincent Dérozier, environment artist and lead material artist at Ubisoft. He will be showcasing his Cartouche Material signature collection for Substance Source and explain how he leveraged the Substance tools to sculpt, optimize, and layer materials together to create his architectural material kit inspired by buildings in Cartagena, Colombia. Vincent, hey man, so awesome to have you here today, man. Such a huge fan of your work. This is just a real honor, man. Hello, welcome.
Hey Wes, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, man. Your presentation is going to be really awesome today, man. Your
Thanks.
skill set is so high, so I think everybody's in for a real treat to be able to see what you have to show us today. So with that said, man, let's just jump right into it. You go ahead and start sharing your screen, and let's check it out. Yeah.
Let's go. So thanks everyone for attending the live stream. So like Wes said, it's going to be about Cartagena, Colombia, signature series I just made. So my name is Vincent Dérozier. I'm an environment French artist and at the moment lead material artist on Immortal Phoenix Rising. You might know some of my works from Substance designer, like my secret bust or probably the mango mask I did in the past, or probably also some of my environment art creation. Um, for in case you don't know me, my latest environment art I just had released professionally was on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, on which I was a texture artist responsible for the architectural material mandate on this one. So I did like a lot of material and textures, different type of surfaces, as well as baked asset and tiling one just to share with the modelers. It's basically the work I had on that project, as well as creating hero asset, few weapons like those one for the heroes.
Oh, hey, Vincent, I don't think you're sharing your screen yet. I think we just have your camera view, man.
Oh, I'm really sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, man. I was just listening, and then I just realized, like, wait a minute, we need to see the visuals.
Yeah, it's my bad. It's my terrible bad. So
yeah, man, we got to see that amazing work of yours.
I'm here. So that was just to illustrate some of the work I made. In case you just saw my latest work on Cartagena. And so basically the latest professional work I had, as I said, was on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so on which I was a texture artist. I just made a lot of surfaces and specific assets. So like baked one, tileable one, also hero asset, as I was saying, like that snake kit and a few weapons for the hero. I also really like to share tips and tricks for everyone that already work with me. You all know me for like loving to share with people, breakdown and things like that. So here is a little thing I did for Substance Academy, and here another one I just did for Level Up Digital a few months back. And finally last year I was really lucky to be invited by you guys to talk about the work we did with the team. I did that presentation with Pierre. That was on the material art direction of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and the overall workflow as well. So that was a quick overview about my professional work, I would say. And today I'm really excited to talk with you guys. So about my latest work done for Substance Source. It's basically a signature series of 15 material done in Substance Designer on the thematic of Cartagena, Colombia. So I really loved working on it, as I've been using Designer for many years now. And as I said, I really love also to share tips and tricks and breakdowns. So basically, it's like the meeting of two of my patients. Few words about the drop itself. The Substance Source team, when they contact me a few months back, they just told me that I could pick like they are really cool. Like you can pick like any thematic you want. So I quickly thought about environment art creation obviously, because it's like my specialty and precisely architecture. So I knew that I was going in that way, and I hesitated like between three different setups, like the Shanghai Shikumen houses, Cartagena Patio, and also the Tuduk tomb in Vietnam. So I ended up picking the Patio in Cartagena, and it was mainly because that setup was like more colorful, much more sunny, with vibrant color and vegetation. And I'm also, like everyone, a big fan of Uncharted 3. So that was a lot of reason just to keep me going on the side, because it was like a big project. So obviously I started gathering a lot of references here and there to be able to work, but also I tried to sort my material and recipes I wanted to share, because it was a very important aspect for me for that drop, not just to share material. The idea was really to propose game production oriented assets with actual recipes, because I really received like a lot of questions regularly by many people just to know how to do things. And I was like, okay, Substance Source is like an actual library of assets for production, which is great. So I was like, let's take that as an opportunity to share with people who might be interested to know how to identify and produce this kind of recipes. So in game production, we tend to have a lot of tileable, trim sheet, material production, and that's also the main reason I did a quick environment. So it's just a little courtyard, but that was really like to, in that mindset of game production, to create a small environment and be able to showcase in context the material collection, just to be able to have actual recipes with limitation and constraints. And it really helped to, illustrate the practical side of things, just to avoid to just drop tileable material and say that's it. So all of those material, they are obviously visually a piece to build that setup, but it was really like my idea to provide, like, each material was supposed to be an excuse to learn a new thing, um, like just how things work and how to implement things together. So I really work with production mindset, as it is for me a big part of what is the job of a material artist. And I receive like that question very often. So what is the job of a material artist and what I'm supposed to learn and things like that. So obviously there is many more recipes than that, but I was like, okay, those are like the basic one, the most efficient one for me. So I already provide a full breakdown of the scene on my session. So here we are just going to focus on the material. So for the drop, I did many substances to share, as I said, the approach of creation in context. And just to name a few, for example, you have the wall stone. So the idea of the wall stone was really to be able to share and to showcase how to use SVG to stack shapes. It really is, for me, a recipe that is interesting. You have the plant material. This one, it's really more to showcase procedural atlasing, scattering, and how to create 3D plans from it. So again, it was just to share material in context. So what you can do with it and what you can achieve. I also did a mochila bag material. So this one was made because it's like very iconic in Colombia, and especially around Cartagena. But it was also to share how to build a proper fabric 8 with color pattern following the threads, like each thread. The same here, I received that question very often at work or outside the work. So I just found that interesting to put it inside the drop. And again, like using some trim sheet structure and alpha to create assets. So I was always going back to that mindset. Okay, how could I use that to create assets and to share information with people? So this setup can come in handy like in numerous situations like tapestries, mosaic, tiles, painting, and things like that. You have the mortar material that is interesting to learn how to create interesting shape flow and merge volume in it. So it's like every material have a different setup and a different approach. So you can learn a lot of things to be autonomous in game production. The door material, I just made it to share a material with external data because it's also a big topic and a big thing we do like a lot in production, but I don't see it quite a lot, and there is a lot of people that don't feel comfortable with it. So I just found it interesting to share some figurative pattern sculpted in ZBrush, and on top of a trim structure sculpted and material layered inside Designer. And it was again an excuse to share once more a bit of trim sheet to create assets for game production, obviously. And finally, one of the last one I want to share, it's the iron lace. So this one is more to create and to learn how to build laces inside Designer, like intriguing shapes, and the material layering as well as managing the alpha test. So every time you are going to open a material, it's going to give you a different aspect and look at a material for game production. So it was just to name a few, so you just understand the mindset of the drop. For me, it was a great opportunity to create some art, but also to share with a game production mindset again. So
And this is
inside,
incredible, Vincent. And just for anybody listening, that these materials are available now in Substance
Mhm.
Source. So you can go grab these today.
Yeah, you can open those, and if you have any feedback on those or question, don't hesitate to poke me. I will be more than happy to respond. Um, and inside the drop, the material we are going to open today is the cartouche or coat of arms. Um, Basically, it's one of the favorite material I made for the drop because it was really funny to work on. I like to create big shapes. It's really exciting, and it's inspired by coat of arms you can find pretty much everywhere on classical building, painting, ships, or document since the Middle Age. So it could be a family blazon, city, country, you name it. And I just love this kind of visual element because they really have a very powerful decorative, but also backstory side to it. So I just love this kind of setup. So those blazons, they can be in stone, wood, metal, or just painting, like I said, on drawings. Um, the mindset I had for this one was to build my own cartouches. So I just create some kind of coat of arms generator. So there is many classical symbols from those period and region, like shield, crown, condor instead of eagles in South America, pomegranate, and things like that. At the end, we are going to see that I created roughly 32 different 8 and 4 material. An interesting aspect in Source as well is the level of optimization you can find on each material. It really is something I was excited about when the Substance Source team contacted me the first time because I wanted to learn like this kind of thing directly from the team, from Substance. And it's just great because you are just going to like learn a lot of things just by opening those materials more efficient. And I just learned a lot of things. So if you want to learn the same kind of stuff, there is the documentation on the Adobe website, but I would just recommend to open the material. It's way more efficient for me because I learn like that. Um, and also, finally, this material is really cool for the material layering mindset. It's a different approach in my head, at least, than just creating a specific texturing for a piece. The material layering is more like what you can have uh, basically in Painter or Alchemist, and I just find it useful even for tileables. So it's the kind of stuff we're going to take a look at. So unless if you have like any question, we can just jump into.
Yeah, we're collecting a few questions here that yeah, I'm kind of holding off on some of these until we get to the end. We'll do a little Q&A, but if we get something really specific, once we kind of get more into it, I'll let you know.
Okay, sure. So,
or actually, Vincent, you're going to walk through the graph itself, right? Here.
Yeah. That's it. I just finished the presentation.
Okay.
I always
Awesome.
prefer to like give a good overview about the mindset and the context. So now, if you want, we can move inside the graph. So I think you see it. Yeah, there's a small lag, but I can deal with it. So basically, here you see the graph that, as was said, you can just download it if you want to follow at the same time what we are like looking at. So here you have what I used to call when I'm working like that the master graph. So the master graph is just basically the final output of the material. It's where you are going to call all the subgraph and layer the material. So it can be frightening because there is a lot of pieces, but it's very simple and straightforward. So here you have the master graph, and under it, all of that is just like subgraph. So you have secondary graph that are called here to build the big 8 map, like here, from here to there. You have all the main part for the 8 map. We are going to take a look at it in a few minutes. And here, from here to there, you have what I call a secondary graph. Those ones are still important, but they are like small pieces, small elements that you can just call back in a lot of graph, like a tie back, a little stars, or maybe a little part of a weapon. So you can just reuse it through the work and just win a lot of time. So those ones are more secondary, I would say. And here, it's one of the specificity of that material. You have actual material. So if you just double click on the metal material, and it's called like that on purpose. So I'm just going to change. I think I'm a bit slow because of the sharing, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so if you just jump right there, you have like 4 different material, and those ones, they are actual material. So with all the output, like you have the base color, the normal, the glossiness, the roughness, sorry. And I don't make the ambient occlusion and opacity because I build it at the end, as you are going to see. But it was really important for me to separate those just to win time and to be able to create actual material layering. So if we go back into the master material, you are going to understand what I'm talking about. So here, as I said, on the left, you have, I think there is a small lag. So here you have, I'm going to check where you are. You have the 8 map. So you have all the main step, like all the different elements I separate just again to win time and to be able to build correctly the final output. Here, as you can see, I don't have base color, normal, and glossiness frame. It's really actual material layering. And it's really something I wanted to share inside the drop, how to do that. It's funny because it's the first thing I learned inside designer, like I think 7 or 8 years ago, following a crazy tutorial about Iron Man from Christophe Des. But that way to layer material, it's actually pretty efficient, even for tileable. So here, as you can see, I have my metal, and then I'm just like layering the patina on top of it. Then the oxidation, and another round of patina, and finally some dust. And it really is a different approach. The output is going to be pretty similar of what you can achieve if you are like going to create a specific texture set with first the base color, normal, and glossiness. But here, the possibility of reuse and sharing is way more bigger. So especially if you are like in game production with colleagues and a lot of people working with you, it really is useful to work like that. To be honest, this part of the job could be done in Painter or Alchemist. It really depends on what you want, but I just wanted to highlight that side of things. So here, oh yeah, and basically, I'm going to open the 8. Just finally, one last thing about the master graph. So if
hey,
you
Vincent.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, man. Just a quick question while that's kind of coming up. So one person was asking, how long did it take to make all this? There's so many parts. Like, how long do you have here?
This one, I did it on the side, so it was longer than that. But like all the hours put together, that was give or take, I would say 6 days. That was, yeah, between 5 and 6 days. I don't. I should have put my hours just to be sure. I was at the beginning, but on this one I didn't. That was not a good idea. I did this one on the side, like on evening and weekends. But yeah, that was like, yeah, roughly 6 days. I would say that there is some element that you can just do in 3ds Max, Blender, or ZBrush just to speed up some part of the workflow. But you are going to see that most of the shape, at least for me, it's like faster to do it that way. So again, it was to share another way to create shape, because there is already ZBrush stuff in the door of the drop. But it's pretty straightforward and pretty fast if you think about like the possibility you can have in production afterward to just play with. It's a good introduction to the preset you have here. If you double click in the back of the main graph, you are going to have access to the preset. So here you have the main parameters. If you go in the preview, you are going to see that you have a few default settings. So you can go from one to the other preset I just put inside the material. And you can also just create yours, like your own coat of arms. I didn't do the math. I think you can just create like plenty of coat of arms and even change some heat map, obviously, to create yours. The first stuff you have in the preset, they are like the base color and everything about the material layering. So just like the blending, the contrast, the range of the mask. And after that, you will find just the structure. So you can just change like what is inside the, like in the back, or what is like in front of you. You can change pretty much everything. So yeah, in my mind, working like that is pretty good amount of time invest if you want to create some kind of generator for game asset, for environment, but also for or like interface. That could be very cool.
Yeah, this is amazing, man. Are you thinking about like optimizing as you go so that because it looks like things are pretty snappy?
Yeah, totally. And again, it's really something I was excited about when I start working on the drop. That was just to be able to like work with the guy of Substance Source, because they are like crazy about optimization and tips and tricks, and they just know like everything about like how this thing is going to behave if you change that stuff and all. And at the end, the level of optimization, they just like teach me basically. It's pretty straightforward. It's not going to add a lot of amount of work to your workflow, because you are just going to do it along the way. So it's just like, don't use a gradient like full size, just change the size like that. I used to, it's a very bad habit I have, to use a lot of blend, but with only one input, just to win some time. I'm just using blend to crop part of my image. And it's a very, very bad habit. because they just told me that maybe it's not going to be support in like following version and all. So this kind of little optim, or just how to anticipate the kind of bug you have, it's really great. So again, if you can just open few material in Substance, because it's just like full of tips like that that are really cool. If you want, obviously we're not going to go through the 32 subgraph, but I just highlight like 5 subgraphs that are pretty different and that could be interesting. I received a lot of questions also since I just released the drop. So this one, for example, it's the main one. I received like a lot of questions about it because it's like kind of intriguing. And as you can see, the graph is very small, and it's a pretty straightforward way to do shapes. I really like to do shapes like that in Designer. For me, it's one of the most powerful tools. You are going to hate me for that, but it's the EaseVG. The EaseVG is like, I'm using Designer to create shapes and data, so I don't really care where it's coming from or how I just produce the result. I just want it to look good or like I want. So EaseVG for me is like one of the most powerful tools, because sometimes it's just like faster to just draw some shape, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you don't have to go outside Designer like in Photoshop to draw something. Obviously, it could be cool to have some new tool in it, but as you can see here, it's pretty straightforward. It's just like some shapes. So this one, I remember like doing it in like 2 hours and a half, that 8 map. But I had already the design, so it was just like production. And basically, it's like an SVG with an uniform blur just to build up the shape, and then you can just like afterward add another HVG that you are going to subtract to the previous one. So the idea is just to create mask like that. When I'm like working on shape, like on complex shapes, and even in ZBrush, I'm always working the same way. I'm always like mock-upping the silhouette, like the big shapes, and then enhancing the volume, sculpting some part, and adding detail to it. So here it's just like just the silhouette. So pretty basic, as you can see. I don't know if, yeah. Let me know if it's not like big enough to follow.
No, it looks good, man.
Okay. So as I said, I just non-uniform blur that shape, basically, and then afterward, I'm just like going to remove some parts. So I just multiply that shape on top of it. And on the side, what I did is that I also non-uniform blur the second shape I draw, like the interior of the wisp. So you have the exterior and the interior, and it just helped me to build up like 3 layers of building for the 8, like the overall shape. And it's almost done at this step. So here you can see that it really helps you to have a nice silhouette, a good overall enhancing of the volume, but also that you can give direction to the sculpt. So that is coming from the non-uniform blur here. So when you have a shape like that, even if it is a complex one, I really like to play with the direction. So here you can play with the anisotropy and asymmetry, and it really is going to give the impression that you are like rotating slightly the shape. So you can see that here you have the shadow here, but not at the bottom. So it's really like giving the feeling that is round, like it's concave inside the volume. So basically, I would say that that wisp, you just have to understand what is happening like here on that step, and even just here on these 2 nodes, and that's it. You just understand how to build this kind of element. Because afterward, you can see here that I just blend max my shape together. So here I just start with this one, remove some element as multiply, just crank up my volume with a level, add my shape I just like talked about previously. Here it's just another level just to be able to clamp my 8. And after that, at the end, it is just tweak. Those one, I just add them at the end when I was like trying to imbricate every element together. And basically that's it. So here you have the Wisp 2 and the Wisp 1. They are pretty much the same. It is just the input that is different. Here the shape are more like that. And I built different like separate SVG because at the end I wanted to have something like that. And that was like the main challenge of that subgraph. That was to be able to create intriguing like shape going all around each other without like going into 3D software. So it was the big part of the challenge, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward again. So after that, I just add the detail I was talking about. So it's just carving along the way. It's the kind of stuff you can see on many references. If you take a look at Code of Arms references. And here it's afterward, one of the tieback I was talking about, it's a subgraph. So this one is just here. So it's what I call a secondary graph. So it's a small one, but I was able to use it here, and you're going to see it in over 8 map afterward. It really helps to win a lot of time when you are building, especially like detailed shape like that. And finally, I have that amazing tweak frame. This one was just from here to there to be able to push my shape in the back of the 8 map to be able to have enough space to put a blazon in the center. Because those elements, they are just the decoration around the blazon. So this one was, I would say, the main one I was have question about, the floor subgraph. There is also the ribbon that might be interesting. What I can do is I can show it to you here. If you click on the, it's something neat if you don't know it. Even if I am in a subgraph, I can just click on the master graph and like on another graph and just tweak the preset that are exposed. It's really useful if you are like working on or with like a lot of small graph or separate elements. So normally, I guess on your side, it's going to be faster because I'm streaming at the same time. Yeah, so that guy was fun as well, that little guy. And this one was even simpler than the previous one we saw. This one, basically, it's just like, I just build again the silhouette, then extrude those, place those, and blend it with the blazon shape you have in the back. So it's really straightforward, as you are going to see. So here is how I create my spiral. So it is just a splatter circular. You play with the ocean, and you are going to end up with something like that with a concentric movement. It is just a lot of disk. So if you just lower the amount, you are going to have fancy things like that. So let's keep it like that. And yeah, as I said, I just create some silhouettes, so the usual, and then I just create the volume from it. So you can play with the shape extrude. It's a very powerful node. Try to have it the smaller as you can, obviously, because the bigger it is, the slower your graph is going to be. And I just create like 3 different orientation for the spiral, just like I would do in ZBrush. You would do this kind of stuff and just grab all the orientation you need. And afterward, I just transform some because I wanted a shape like that, like the one you have at the top and at the bottom. And basically, after that, it is just transformed. So it's really, really straightforward. The idea is just to end up with all your elements that are like placed at the right place. to be able to be blended here with the blazon. So here the blazon was when I started it with some shapes, but obviously it was just faster to just draw it. So again, it's an SVG, and if you never use it, the non-uniform directional warp is really cool if you want to have some kind of chip extrude. I wanted to have something like that with a little curve and a little back on it. So if you just use a non-uniform blur and afterwards you just blur your surface, you are just going to end up with it. And so again, it is just a pretty neat setup, not that complex to have something that could be cool. And so if you just go along in the graph, you are going to see that I just basically blend in max blend the spiral we just built and the blazon together. So the idea again was just to have the shape in the back, and afterward, what you have here, it is basically just tweak again to have enough room to put the blazon. You are going to find a frame like that, tweaks a little bit in every big subgraph, and the idea was just to tweak when every shape was finished and to be sure that the intersection were good in like between all the elements.
So Vincent, another question I'm looking at here. So it's asking about normal generation, the graph layer. They're asking, looks like they're saying that you have normal generation in graph layer. Why not just only, let's see, only high and then normal? I guess why they're asking why not just use the height and then create your normal at the end of the graph. I'm not really sure where that part came in, but maybe it's in the main graph you showed earlier.
Yeah, maybe it was in the master graph.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I just work with the 8 map because here with this kind of structure, it's more efficient. And obviously, if you want to do material layering, and it's funny because it's also how Painter is built, you will need at some point to have normal layering as well. Obviously, it depends on what kind of setup and render you want. But if you want this kind of material layering, uh, I tend to add my 8 map and just like generate my normal and just blend them together. So it's the kind of setup you can have here. So here it's like an actual material. So you have the base color, the normal, but not just the normal, you also have the gloss and everything that is related to that material, even the metalness. And I just like, so material blend together according to some mask generated here. So here it's like in Painter or in Alchemist, I just build curvature and every mask I needed like my HBO and all of that to layer the final outputs. So hopefully it responds to the answer.
Great. Thanks. Thank you, Vincent. Yeah. So I've got some more questions here. I can start asking these, but maybe we could save it getting towards the end. I think this one here, this was talking more about the door, but it was saying, did you sculpt the door ornaments in ZBrush or fully in Designer? I think you answered that one already.
Yeah, the ornaments, like I sculpted the head in ZBrush and just Z grab those. The idea was, again, I wanted to just give a full range of many techniques, even though there is like much more techniques than that. But I wanted to just like create some kind of like basic starter kit for everyone to understand, okay, what kind of setup I can have and what are you using like in video game? Because I receive this kind of question very often, and every time, obviously for me, it's like, no, I'm not doing this that way, I'm doing it like that, but it's because I'm working in it. So for me, it's obvious, but I know that when you want to start or when you are like coming from the movie industry or FX industry, sometimes it can be hard just to figure out. So the idea was, for example, for the door, to give that that example of like something generated inside Designer. Like everything is built inside it except the figurative pattern, because in production it's way more efficient, I would say.
Okay, and kind of a follow-up to that question. Let's see here. It kind of going back to like the SVG again. What about using imported bitmaps? So that's kind of what you're doing with the when you're grabbing the shape from ZBrush instead of SVG. And it says I mean, to be able to compute everything you want from your graph with the presets that you created. I guess it's more of a question of like, so some of the shapes that you create SVG, like when you are bringing the content in from ZBrush, I mean that those bitmaps are embedded in the Substance file at that stage.
Yeah.
So like with
totally.
the SVG, it's less weight or whatever. Do you have any like kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me it's just a matter of context, and it's really, I would say, like the main thing to understand from that drop. It is always a matter of context. So obviously, if it is like simple shapes or something that you can do faster with SVG, go ahead, because it's pretty much optimized. It's like you say, it's really light, and you can just like prototype directly inside Designer. So for me, it's like a lot of good reason to play with it. But obviously, when you are like starting to layer 1000 SVG, it's more efficient just to go in ZBrush and sculpt something. So it is just a matter of context. There is no absolute rule like, no, don't use that node, or don't use that tool. You just use it depending on the context. And obviously, sometimes it's more efficient to use an SVG than just to sculpt something, and the other way around. So there is no absolute rule. It is just, for me, it's really subjective, but it's always better to learn a lot of tricks. So then after that, they are in your pocket. So you just choose to use those or not in production. But you are just free if you learn those, like real free. Yeah, so for example, I have an example with SVG that here are, for me, really like very fast and efficient. For the curtains you have, so it's one of the 8 in the back. I should have named those flags. I think it's more accurate than curtains, but anyway, there are curtains. And so here everything is pretty much straightforward. Again, obviously, it's just like simple shapes. For example, here, it was way more efficient to just move shapes than to just draw that. That was like 3 steps, so that was faster than doing an SVG. So here it's like that. But after that, when I have that element and I wanted to add wrinkles on top of it, so from here, I finish with something like that. So yeah, you can go in Marvelous and you can ZBrush something, and it's totally fine. Again, here with that SBS, I wanted to share input and techniques that are going to be useful if you want to go like that road inside Designer. So here you can see that I use an SVG again, and I just blur it. So I just did 2 kind of blur. It's the kind of stuff you have with curtains, when you have a wrinkle. Let's make a demo. You are going to have a part of the volume that is going to be very smooth and another one that is going to be very sharp. And it really was the idea. So basically, you have 2 different blur. I just put them together, and after that, the result, I just blend it in add mode on top of my base shape. So here it's almost done. And if you want to understand how I build that wrinkle, it's like the secret magic is here. I use the node wind, so it's the directional warp. And so after like putting your shape, you just deform your curtain according to your shape. So here, and you will have that feeling that it is not something you just put in add mode on your tapestry. It's really going to add volumes in it. So here I put 2 directional warp just to tone down a little bit the effect, but you have the main idea here. So for me, it was again really efficient to do it that way. But you can bring back some 8 maps from outside. There is like no rules that is like forbidding you to doing that way, and that's why you can do it in Designer, because sometimes it's more efficient. So basically, it's the main interesting thing I would say about the curtain, because after that, I just bring back some 8 map blend in Max. So it's really straightforward. It's like adding some shapes. Like here at this step, the flag is done, the flag itself, and I'm just like adding some little element like the spear. So from here to there. So the idea is just to add some weapon at the top. So I just add some little element like a gradient on top of my curtain flag, sorry. And so it's really straightforward, as you can see if you are like following up with the graph. And you're going to see as well that here I have my blade that is a subgraph like the tie back we saw, and some little element like that. Here I have the same tie back and I use it here. So I'm just like reusing element because, it's like, it's kit bashing. You would do it in 3D, like with ZBrush or in Blender, like kit bashing shapes to win a lot of time. So for me, it's the same. It's like kit, it's graph bashing. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, so I would say that's it for the specificity of that 8, because it's mainly the same kind afterward of setup you have right there. I can just give you a quick look to, we already see this one. The sword basically is really straightforward. It's the last one I did for the back, and this one is really, really straightforward. It is just a lot of subgraph like that I just use in place with splatter circular. So the idea was just to create another variation, but I wanted to do one that was like less expensive in terms of time, and again to share this kind of technique and example. So it's very basic. You can see here that I'm just like adding my shapes using some splatter shape, and at the end it is just a tweak to place again correctly my element. But basically I'm using subgraph like those one. So you are going to find the theme in the subgraph, also this kind of bottom for the curtains and the sword. And after that, I just call those 3 shapes. I move them with some gradients just to be able to have a nice flow when they are blending together. But basically, that was just like a small tweak. And yeah. So it's how I build all the back elements, I would say. And other than that, I have two more graphs to share with you that are a bit different, and they were very fun to do as well. So that little ribbon. So that guy was like it was like the floral element we saw at the beginning of the live stream. The guy that is here. So it was one of the main reasons I did the coat of arm. I was like, it's intriguing how those shapes are going together or like going around. So am I going to be able to do it in Designer? So I was like searching for tips and tricks. And again, I ended up with an SVG. Why is that? Is because it is just like very fast to iterate on it. And basically what I did, if you want a quick overview, I did my base shape here. And after that, with Histo Select, I just go around inside my form. You can see just to isolate that element, this one or this one. And I add my gradient by hand. Obviously, this one, you can just like create a curve in 3D and have your shape going around it, and you will have your 8 map, and that's it. Again, with that graph, I wanted to share like a 100% procedural way to do those intriguing shape. So it's one way to do it inside Designer. So you have the SVG, and then you can just like histo select inside it because there is different amount of gray value. And when you just like isolate one element, I'm just like adding some gradient. So basically here I'm like adding 2 gradient on this part. Then I have the interior part like right there. I'm just adding a gradient like that. And when you are like putting them together, you're already like feeling that the shape is turning. So it's really handcrafted, like totally handcrafted. And I just found this kind of setup really fun inside Designer. And finally, I did the same one for the big interior part. So again, a shape and few gradients, and then I just blend together all the different elements. So when you have that done, you can just like have a mirror, place it at the right place to have everything blending together in one click, and use here I just use a non-uniform directional warp to have a slight thickness to the ribbon. So that's pretty much it for that little guy. And at the end, I add also some text. I don't remember this. Oh, this one is "Do you know the slope blur?" Because it's one of my favorite node. But yeah, thanks, Dimitri. And so yeah, that's it for the most of the graph. If you want to dive into maybe the most complex one, inside all the graph you have here, you have the condor. This one I would say is the only one I was doing, and I was like in 3D it would be way faster, because for the other one I was like every time between like 1 to 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, so it was really straightforward. This one was really long because it was like element by element, and so it's that guy. So it's the little condor you can have on top of some color farm. And obviously I just build each part, like the feather, and then I just build the wings from it. So I just create several shapes and just call them like, the splatter circular is really cool for that. So you can just like create your shapes and just create your final wings. And then I just deform it with several swirl. That node is really helpful if you want to create laces or very intriguing shapes. The swirl is really fun to play with. You never have. And yeah, after that, it's just like playing with gradient to have a nice deformation on your eight, and to be able to have the right orientation. So I did that for the wings. I did that for the breast as well, and it's pretty much the same setup. So it's another splatter circular with the feathers I just made. I just warp it and clamp it. So basically, at the end, it is it is every element that I build like that for the condor. And you can just follow the build-up of the 8 map here. So you have here the 2 wings that are put together. Then I just add the breasts. After that, I add the tail, every element, the color, the head. Everything was built separately, and I didn't need it to like reuse some element. But obviously, if you need to, I don't know, to have some kind of chicken McNuggets for a subgraph or something, you can probably reuse that. Um, yeah, so the condor is interesting for that. And so I don't know if you have any question regarding the 8 themselves, or we can just like dive into the
Yeah,
material.
Yeah, I think so. Let me see if there's there was one other thing in here I wanted to ask
Mhm.
you. Let me find it again. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this one. What do you look at when choosing the resolution proportion for the small details?
Mm. You mean the okay?
Yeah, I guess when you're making like small shapes, you know, like some of the smaller individual shapes, like I mean, like what if optimization purposes, like do you set those at an absolute locked resolution? Like, okay,
Yeah,
let me keep these at 256. How does that work?
yeah. Basically, the smaller the better. And one of the rules I learned from the Substance team is that you just play with the shapes. You build your shapes, and then you are going back into your graph and trying just to tone down or like downsize some element and just see where you can start to feel or to see some downgrade in terms of quality, and you just stop before that. So it's really a straightforward mindset and very easier mindset to have when you are producing something. But a lot of elements, I don't know, like the tie back, for example, you are like that. That guy, that little guy you have here, he's never going to be bigger than that. And let's say that you are like in a material that is like 4K, so it's like 4K, 2K, 1K, it's big like that. So that guy, we can say obviously that like 256 is going to be like with like pretty enough definition for him. You don't need to be bigger than that, and maybe you can even go smaller. You just have to check that it's like working with many scenarios, and it's always better to set a very specific size than to have like the divide by two, divide by two, divide by three, because if you have a graph set up like that, you are going to maybe have some graph broken um, during the downsize of the main graph. So
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Vincent. And you say you want to head over to the material now. Is that right?
yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm going a bit fast sometime on some aid building because obviously it's like that was like 6 days of work, so in 1 hour it's going to be a bit fast.
Yeah.
Um, but here you have one part that was very interesting and fun to work on is the material layering, as I said. So just for you to take a look at it. So what I did basically, as I said, is I just built different material. So here you have the metal material. And it's a metal material, not gold or bronze. I exposed the color, the gloss, and the medium shape and a small shape just to be able to have that versatility, to be able to build silver, gold, or bronze from it. So basically you have the metal. I just put some information on top of it, like the kind of patina you would have just on that part of the element. So basically, it is just like some HSL, directly on the base color. I didn't touch the normal, the gloss or the metalness here. So the idea was just to put some information that would be like, the sun bleach you can have on some element and things like that. It's really the kind of idealization I like, me in my materials. And then on top of that, using the material blend, I just put some patina on top of it. So this one is the patina one. So again, it's not a specific patina because I expose some parameters like the color and things like that. So here you have the first blend, the second one. So you can have different layer of patina. And here you have the last one that is really driven with some leaks and stuff like that. All of those you can just like toggle those on and off. So that's why I just build it like with a layering mindset. So you can just like completely remove or just play with the opacity of that step of patina. And finally, I put some dust. So most of the time I'm just going like very heavy and very gravy with my dirt. obviously here it could feel a bit too much, but as you saw when you are in the final render with the alpha test and all the other strata responding, you don't see it pretty much because you have also many information in your metalness or inside your roughness. So it really is a good balance between all those stratas in your texture set. And so here the main step of the material layering. So you have every blending between each core material, I would say. And the main work here is not made in the material themselves, but inside the mask. So like you would do inside a painter. So for example, let's take a look at the dust material. So here's the tileable material of dust. You have the material that is at this step almost done. And if you take a look at the mask here, you are going to see that I just build it from there. So basically, I just create some kind of leaks generator with many scenario and setup because each patina is going to react differently. Some are more like greasy than others. So I just create different kind of setup, but each line is one type of clicks. And basically, it's like that. It is just a noise. You remove some information depending on your height map. So it could come from a mask from the facing normal or the light or something like that. You just like remove it. So it could be a subtract or a multiply. And then playing with non-uniform blur, you just push your shape. So it's pretty basic. The idea is just to have some dripping element and to directional warp it at least twice to have the feeling that the warp is static. So here I just clamp it with my shape right there, warp it a little bit, and use a level just to clamp the elements. So don't hesitate to go very strong with each step of your mask. It's something that is going to really help you to have something easier to work with and just tone down it afterward. So here, for example, I have that little guy. And from here, I just have, so here it's just a facing normal. So I don't know if you're like used to it, but it's a really cool generator for mask. So you have your normal, you just create a facing normal. It's going to have different information than just reusing one strata of your normal or just a curvature or an AO. It's different. It's really cool. So from this one, I just histo select some parts. So here is the kind of element I want with my leaks, for example. And just after that, I just blend some element I wanted on top of it. So here you have the leaks I was talking about. So as you can see, you don't see those everywhere afterward. It's likely going to be a bit more subtle. And after that, it's a little bit the kind of stuff you can have in Painter. So you have the generation of your leaks. And then I'm just adding some grunges on top of that. So I'm just like taking a noise that I just quantized, is to select some element and just put it on top of my leaks. Doing that like several times just to enrich a little bit my mask. And here at the end, before using it, I'm just like playing with the contrast. I expose it just to be able to play with that in the final side for the user. So yeah, basically it's a, oh, I have a little guide trying here. So it's pretty straightforward again, but it's, for me, it's like, it's always like that in designer. It's always like very straightforward. It's just a lot of little steps after each one. So that's,
yeah, little pieces that add together to create the whole thing. Yes. So some more questions here, kind of referencing the height blending and layering, and they were, I think they're asking about the column material. Were you going to show the column material?
The column material, you mean?
I think it was, you may not have that one. I think it was at the very beginning of your presentation. There was some columns that you had where you were blending some different materials. I think they're just wondering if that was a height-based blend on that column.
Yeah. That one, the vertical cylinder inside the PowerPoint, it was directly inside Unreal. So it's basically, you can recreate it in like Unreal, Unity, almost set up just directly inside Designer. It's just like, for some elements, it's blended with the 8, and for some other, it's blended with grunge maps. So it really depending on the kind of material you have.
And so you were doing that material layering inside the Unreal shader then?
Yeah. It's basically it's the material I have for the scene itself.
Okay, and with that question, I think this came up to the scene that you had built. You showed that in your PowerPoint in Unreal. Did you say you have a video where you walk through that?
I might. I didn't test if it's like really working in the stream. Let me check. I think I can open the YouTube.
Or do you have? Yeah, do you have some kind of tutorial? Actually, if you want, you can get Vincent to or Marine to post the link. If you want to just send me the link in the chat window for Zoom, I can post that for you.
Yeah, sure. Skip.
But yeah, is that something that you have as a tutorial or something like on your own site?
Yeah, I basically, if you go on my ArtStation, I don't know if you have the link somewhere. I can just send it to you. If you go on my ArtStation page, you will have 2 different posts. You have one with the material with a lot of renders, and one with the Unreal Engine scene. It was really to help people understand the difference between the both, and I did many breakdown as well. So,
okay, definitely. Yeah, I'll see if Vincent or Marine can maybe find that, or like if you said, if you post it into this chat window here, I can.
I just put it into the chat if you want. You are going to have the scene.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for it. Did you post it in the Zoom chat?
Yeah. I don't know if I do that. Do you see my video or not? Yeah.
I see the
I don't
YouTube.
know if it's like.
Yeah, it's coming up now. It might. I mean, we can just maybe scrub through it a little bit because it might be pretty choppy. But anyways, we can post links to this outside of that.
But basically, some of the render you have at the beginning of the presentation, I could just share that as well. It could work.
There we go, Vincent or Marine. They're posting it in the chat for everybody as well, so we have that. Perfect. Yeah, because some of those questions were coming in that they were like, do you use Substance in UE4? Obviously, that's what I mean. You were using.
Yeah, basically, I use the import of the SBSR. It's really something really powerful because in terms of iteration, I really love to work on like almost everything at the same time, like all the material when I can. So a lot of my material were pretty choppy when I was building the scene. And it was really cool to just re-export the SBSR and recompute it and to have everything working. Also, I just built like basically a lot of texture variation directly inside the Unreal because of that. So it was cool. And here it is just a few blends, and it was just to show some blending. Some are made, as I said, with the 8 map, but some are like grunges I just built especially for that setup. So for example, the paint, you are not going to have blend of paint peeling according to the 8 map. It's much more going to be grunges with few information from maybe the curvature, maybe the ambient occlusion or thing like that.
Okay, yeah. And so with that, do you have any tips concerning the SBSAR optimization for import into a game engine? Like, I guess we'll say this with Unreal, like since you're using the Unreal plugin. I mean,
I'm still trying to figure out how we could, maybe with the next generation of SSD, so it's really something that is exciting me, is to see how far we could have the support of the SBSR like live, because obviously every time you are changing something, it's going to compute. Um, I don't see anything broken when I was working on it. It's just that every time it's going to recalculate the element you just made. So maybe with the next generation of or the tech support we could add, um, maybe it could be something more interesting to have directly in engine. I don't know if anyone is really working with that directly, because most of the production I saw using it were like compiling those when you are loading the world map. But obviously, for production reason, it's really a great tool. Um, Really useful, really efficient, and in terms of iteration, it's mind blowing, at least for me.
yeah. So another question with that was we had some people asking like, can they see the blueprint node and things like that? So with that said, like, do you have that scene? Like, is it like a paid tutorial, or do you have something like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to share it because it's really sloppy. I just did it to have the overall setup, and I'm always shy to share this kind of stuff. But I just shared on my station some info with the graph.
Oh, cool.
It's really, again, it's really basic. It's just like I prototype it in Designer and just rebuild it into the shader editor inside Unreal. But I think I'm going to try to find some time to clean it up and to share it, because many people ask me to do that. But I'm just not really comfortable because like I'm not an Unreal Engine expert. So basically there is much more data already existing in terms of material layering, um, with shaders from the Megascan and things like that. But
Yeah, it looks like there were a lot of requests for people wanting to see like that scene you had. So I don't know, man, it may be cool for you. Put it on your Gumroad or something. That would be, I mean,
I think
I
it's
would
going
definitely
to,
get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to take some time to clean it up,
Yeah.
because for now, every time I'm opening it, I'm like, I'm just blushing, and I don't know if I want people to saw that.
Let's see. Okay, another question that I have. This one's coming in. Let's see. Let me try to find what this was. Man, I always lose where I am in this doc. I don't know what my problem is. It was about the texel ratio stuff.
Mhm.
So this one was asking texel ratio. You know, are you following any rules with this?
Yep.
Like for example, no is 1K 1K. Is that going to equal like 2 meters by 2 meters, or do you have something set up in your mind? How do you work like that?
For the scene, I had a pixel ratio of like 1K for 1 meter. So basically, I was just making my material when they were like 2K. They were like tiling every 2 meters, and when they are like 4K, like the door, it was like for 4 meters. So it was really helpful just to be able to go faster that way. But obviously, as long as you have a consistent pixel ratio, uh, you can pick the one you want. So it's like 1K for 1 meter or like 1K for 2 meters. Obviously, the bigger it is, the more blurrier it's going to be. But yeah, everything like in the scene is like in 2K for the most part of it, except the Mochilia bag that are like props, and the blazon and the door. The door was bigger, and the blazon and the Mochilia were smaller.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, more questions, if you don't mind. I'm kind of transitioning into our
Shoot.
Q&A as
Yeah,
we
yeah,
go.
shoot.
So yeah, no worries with that. Let's see. I don't want to disrupt your flow. Was there anything else that you wanted to show specifically in the graph?
No,
Or
no.
okay,
I just I've been going through everything. So
okay, great, man. Yeah, it's just kind of organically flowing into that. So yeah, another question was, how often do you search for photogrammetry stuff to reference values, albedos, like roughness, stuff like
mm,
that?
uh, every time, I would say. I love to take a look also just at photo references and painting, because I just found that they are like more vibrant at some point in many situations. But I really love to take a look at scan data as well, because just to be able to be sure that you are not like going full rampage or full crazy on some kind of information or intensity. But obviously, there are just always an instant of one material in one context, and you always have room to play with that.
Hmm. Let's see, and these are kind of a little bit more general. So this one is, what do you think is the most important as you're learning and improving your art? Motivation, dedication, or passion?
Whoa, that's a big one.
Yeah, that one's deep. That's a deep question.
Whoa.
Yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
yeah,
philosophical now.
yeah. Hmm. I would say it's a little bit all
Yeah,
of those
yeah,
at the
all
same
three. Yeah, I
time.
would say all three. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all free, and I would just recommend, if you can, like, if you're like losing motivation or patience at some point, uh, don't be shy to work on something that is like motivating for you, like a thematic that is like really touching you, or some fan art, or just be like uh, getting in the flow with a music that is like very resonating with you, or thing like that, or like painting pieces and stuff like that. Because most of the time I see a lot of people like starting pieces that they don't already like the thematic, and they are getting lost in it. So that, and taking some break, it's really important as well.
Yeah. You know, I think I would say, all three of those are all really great things, but maybe I would
Hmm.
scratch all three and just put the word fun in there instead. Because like, if you're just having
Yeah.
fun and you're learning, just don't take yourself so seriously. Don't like put so much stress
Hmm.
on yourself to learn. Oh, I've got to be this level. I've got to be that, and comparing myself to this person or that. Just enjoy yourself, have fun, and then naturally you'll just get better.
Yeah,
Uh,
I totally agree.
yeah.
Actually, it's like, I think it's the main thing to keep in mind when you are trying to learn or to progress in anything in life, or in like work related, or anything at all. It's like you are not competing with other people. You are just competing with yourself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if that guy is like, oh, really awesome, or you are like stronger than him at some point. What is really important is that, are you enjoying what you are doing, and are you
Yeah.
learning things,
Yeah.
and then that's it at the end of the day. That's
That
why
that's awesome, man. Yeah.
I just took that Cartagena thematic, because from the start it was like resonating with me. I'm not from Colombia, but I was like, I love Uncharted 3, and those references, they are like very sunny and bright, and I want to deep dive in that. Uh, and that was the good time for me because of all of what is happening in the world. So I was just happy to be surrounded by references with colorful and bright sun and things like that. So you just have to enjoy the road to be able to learn,
Yeah,
I would
that's
say.
true. That's it. Yeah, if you're not having fun as you're doing it, I mean, kind of you ask what's the point,
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
if
I
you're,
agree.
okay, this is more of a statement. I got to read this one. This was asking if we could please tell Vincent that he is insane in the best way. So, big compliment. The amount of work he put into all the details and everything is just amazing. So, yeah, big fan for you, Vincent. There, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see here. What are common? This is good. What are common interview questions game industries will ask you about your texture work?
Mm. You mean what is the most usual comment, or what?
Yeah, I guess like I don't know, like maybe I mean, you work in one of the biggest studios in the world. Like, I mean, getting a job like that, like you're going in for an interview. Like, what kind of things did they
Oh,
ask you?
honestly, it's really depending on the type of people we are going to look at. But most of the time, I would say that for me, because it's a really subjective subject. But when I'm trying to find someone, I'm not going to check if you are like that powerful in that software or this one. I'm going to check, yeah, really the mindset you are in. If you are powerful in Mudbox or ZBrush, I don't care. You are just powerful in sculpting. And if you are like curious and easy to live with, it's really important for me as well, because you are going to be part of a team. And at the end of the day, it's all that matter. Like, your soft skill are as important as your art skill, I would say.
Yeah.
So sorry, it's like a very general answer, but it's really what I have in mind when I'm like interviewing people. It's like, okay, here is your portfolio. It's a good one. And I'm just like projecting myself with that person next to me and inside the team.
Yeah. Can you work with them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Vincent, I forgot to do this, but yeah, you could go ahead and stop sharing your screen. I mean, as we're kind of doing the QA, I'm sure people are, it's like, so you're more talking to them. I think we're just showing one screen. I just realized that. Let's see. More stuff coming. Oh yeah, these are some good ones I wanted to ask as well about the trim sheet stuff. So this one was asking, how do you decide if a trim sheet is the way to go when creating a scene?
Oh, I think it's always a matter of context, and the context is like artistically, what do you want to do, but also, and it's really something that most of the people forget, even in production, which is funny. It's the time you have, like in game production, the budget is not just like triangles. It's like how many hours did you have? If you have like few weeks or something like that, yeah, you can go crazy inside ZBrush. But if you have like few hours or like days or months, but you have like 100 assets to do and like 2 megs of textures, maybe you need to be smarter than that. So it's obviously it's just a matter of context. And because I wanted to just share a broad range of solution, I just use a lot of trim sheet. But I would say that, yeah, if you can win some time on something, on some element, just go with the trim sheet and you will just like open some, like create some free time for hero asset and things like that.
Oh man, here's a follow-up question. That's really good. I should have asked this earlier. I'm sorry, everyone, but it was asking, can you show how you plan trim sheets and combine them in Designer? Like how? Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I should have asked that when you were I missed it.
You mean directly inside it? Is it okay if I open another subgraph? Or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just checking our time and everything. I think we're okay if we want to do that real quick.
If you want, I can open one, or I can just like explain it like that. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can just take a look at a structural element like a reference, and you are going to see what could be tiling, because obviously in reality nothing is tiling, everything is specific. But you are going, if you take a look at a temple, like a Greek temple, or if you take a look at a neoclassical house, like, I don't know, the White House, you are going to see that you have stucco, you have wall stone. So those ones, they are tiling elements, but the trim and maybe few assets at the bottom or thing like that, they could be on trim sheets. And you are going to be able to reuse those to circles element or thing like that. So obviously, it's a matter of habit also. So just try to do 1 or 2 pieces like that and take a look at portfolio of other artists, and it's going to be very obvious when you see something that is like a trim sheet.
Yeah, and then as far as breaking it up inside a Designer, what are you doing there? Just using.
Oh, basically, it's the same. It's the same way than doing anything else, like a wall stone or something like that. It is just that you are going to bring back some other element, like some trim, like you are going to use gradient with curve just to add detail and place them using tile generator or directly transform. As long as you don't break your tiling horizontally most of the time, you are good to go. So it's really straightforward again. It's not that different than anything else. If you look at the material I had for the drop, it could be any of those. You can just turn it into a trim sheet by just selecting some element and just changing it with some very long and horizontal lines. So basically everything is a trim sheet, or could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think the follow-up question to that was when planning the sheets, what they were talking about was creating so you have the individual elements and then placing them into a single texture. Like
yeah, you can totally do that, like a mini subgraph and just put them together. But again, it's just a matter of context. Like sometimes your structure is better to be built like that. But at some point, maybe you can just have like a tile generator for the wall stone and just add gradient on top of it, and you will have an amazing trim sheet.
All right. So another question here. How soon do you start taking your materials into like say UV4 to see how they feel? Like, do you
Mm.
do that near the end or early in the stage?
I would say as early as possible. So most of the time, not early enough, but as early as possible. Like uh, most of the time, when I'm doing a night map, I'm doing like the first draft, and I'm just like doing the first draft for every strata. So like the base color, the gloss, and all of that. And I'm just going into the Unreal. And what I did is I just did that for like I guess probably 12 of those material at the drop, just to be sure that everything was balanced together. Because you can still be PBR and have something that is like standing out too much, you know, in terms of value or color saturation or anything else. So it's really important to go inside the engine as fast as possible.
You're saying so Jerry says he loves you, man.
I love him as well.
Yeah, what's up, man? Jarice is awesome, man. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, he's a bit crazy.
Yeah, it's like Marine just put that in the chat. I was there, I looked down and like, oh man, he's crazy. He's in here. What's up, Jarice? Let's see. Looking at our time, I think I could fit a few more questions in here. Do you let's see. Well, let's just ask, how many years of experience do you have working with Substance?
Last time I checked, I think
I mean, you
I
just
think I
started, right?
worked.
Like a week ago.
Yeah. Actually, it's my first day with a computer,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because there is a lot of buttons. No, it's I think 7 years. But to be honest, there is people that are like playing with designer since 2 months. They are like doing just
I know,
crazier
yeah.
thing than me. So it doesn't matter how many years you spend on something. When I
Yeah.
start on designer, there were like 5 material available, like inside the folders, and one tutorial that was from Christophe Des. So it was a crazy time to start learning designer. And now there is like tutorial all around the world and everywhere. So now there is crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Okay, so good one. Good segue here. Speaking of learning, like what are some of your favorite tutorials? Do you have anything that sticks out that you would recommend?
Yeah, Iron Man from Christophe Des.
Yeah, that's
Because I don't know
awesome.
this
Yeah.
one. No, this one
Yeah.
is really old, but there is a lot of very cool one on level of digital. And what is cool is that it's not there is a lot of stuff with designer and with other software, so you can just like blend them together. It's really cool. I don't know. There is Substance Academy with a lot of stuff as well. And I would every time someone asks me, every time I just recommend them to go to check your channel. You know, like the Substance channel, but maybe I would call it like the West channel because there is like almost only you everywhere. And
Yeah.
when you are going through that, after that, you are better. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and the other one I would recommend too is Gumroad. Like, there's lots. I mean, so many talented artists are putting their stuff on Gumroad.
Yeah, I
I know
agree.
Daniel Tiger has a lot of stuff on there, which is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Here's my dilemma is I don't look at any of it. I'm afraid because like I don't want to watch it because like if I have to do a tutorial for Academy, I'm afraid
Yeah.
I'll be too influenced by like yours. I saw your Level Up Digital and I was gonna buy it and I was like, nope, I'm afraid I don't want to, So anyways, they look
I
awesome.
have I have the same issue. I have the same issue. I'm not looking enough at any tutorial, and I don't know why. If it is my imposter syndrome or something, but I I kind of try to learn everything alone, but it's not a good idea. Don't do that.
No, it's not a
Just
good
take a look
idea.
at
Yeah.
tutorial. Yeah, it's
I
better.
just get so afraid because we're producing stuff for Substance Academy, and I don't ever want to like be influenced by something else. And that's my
I
fear. And I was,
understand.
gosh, I'd be so afraid that like if I did that like without even thinking about it. So like, I just don't look at it.
Yeah, but
So
they are just at the end of the day, they are just information, and
yeah,
it is just what you are going to do with it that is going to define like
yeah.
the kind of art you are going to do. So,
So what are the qualities needed to tackle and learn texturing?
mm, um,
That's a tough one, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I would say the same kind of quality you have for every artistic job is like being curious visually. If you are a musician, you are going to be very curious with every sound and thing like that. So artistically, for the texture artist, I would say that being curious about what is the color theory, what is rhythm between shapes and things like that. And at the end of the day, when you learn this kind of stuff, when you're going to deep dive into designer or play with alchemist or painter, you're going to go very fast because you are not going to ask yourself, okay, what is the complementary of that stuff and things like that. You are just going to, okay, here is the slope blur and here is the SVG, and I'm okay with the rest. So I would say just, yeah, to be curious visually about things and don't hesitate to play with stuff.
Yeah. And this one was, did you learn or understand Designer better using it at work or just on personal projects?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say both because I always try to do very different thing. Obviously here, no, totally not. I just did something that would work um, in the everyday work in the studio, but I just try to do very different things. So they are very complementary, like sculpting a bust or doing figurative shape in designer at home, and trying to have good recipes with tileable. So as long as you have like a context, I would say you are going to learn something.
Okay, and let's see here. I'll just take one more question, I think. Let's see. I'm just trying to find something really quick in here.
Not a question from Jerry's.
Yeah. No, he already had his question, right? Sorry. I'm just trying to find something that won't be too hard to or long to answer. This one is tips. Do you have any? Well, let's see here. Tips for procedural material for a big asset, like I don't know, because you do a lot of environment work, I guess. Do you have something for that?
Well, I would say that it's cool to learn how to build material for very big asset, like to use a triplanar shader and things like that. So still to be able to create interesting mask directly on the fly in the engine or inside Painter or things like that. But to be able to layer material directly inside the engine, you are going to be able to handle different type of shape and size. So it's something that can come in handy.
Okay. Well, Vincent, I think that's about it then for our time, man. I think we need to start closing it out. Yeah. So thanks to everybody for joining us. I'm super sorry if I missed anyone's questions. But anyways, thanks everyone for joining us here.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Yeah, Vincent, thank you so much, man. This was a real honor hanging out with you, man. Your expertise and showing that was really, yeah, dude, it was awesome. Super awesome. And so, yeah, so our next live stream is going to be, it's going to cover architecture, and it'll be on November 17th with Roberto. So we'll have more information on that. Just stay tuned to like our Twitter feeds and things like that. We'll get some more info. So that's it, man. I'll close it. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. And yeah, take care. And we will see you on the next stream, man. Thanks a lot, everyone. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.